Hello everybody. So my first semester of law school is officially over, technically as of Saturday. I think was my last final. Fun fact, law school does this thing where they have finals on Saturday. It's horrible. My first exam was torts and it was on a Saturday and I just assumed that it wasn't. So on like Thursday, I was like, I should probably look at my schedule for the final exams. And then I was like, oh, so I had a few less days to prepare than I planned, but I don't think it would have made that much of a difference. Um, so yeah, that happened. I've got whole semester done, and basically, I'm looking back thinking about the times when I could have worked harder and done better. Definitely realizing that I get this idea that okay, if I take a week where I kind of don't focus on the readings as much, sort of give myself a break week in the middle of the semester, I'm like I'll know what that is and I can catch up later. Which half of that is true. It's very easy to look back on my notes and think, huh, this was the week where I didn't where I didn't follow what was happening as much. Like that's not the hard part. The hard part is deciding to make up for what was lost. As much as you can Google most of this stuff, as much as we have these books that tell us all this stuff, you really need the professors to walk you through a lot of these concepts. Especially because the professors are the ones who write the exams and grade the exams. So even if the textbook says something, unless I mean with Civ Pro, the professor also wrote the textbook, so that's a plus. But even then, yeah, that's a lesson learned that I kind of figured I would learn, and I just decided to learn it the hard way anyway. But um, but I'm not actually that worried uh, about the exams, which hopefully won't be embarrassing later when I get the grades back, which we don't get until January 16th is the latest, I guess. Um, so for those of you back home who care about me and love me and want to know how my finals went, the answer is I have no idea. I can tell you that towards the end of my torts exam, my keyboard switched from English United States to like English Dutch or something else. So that freaked me out because all of a sudden the key that I was pressing didn't correspond to the correct letter. So I grabbed like a blue book to write it out by hand. I was like, I can't do this. Which those of you who know my handwriting, you understand why I can't do that. Um, so I ended up just doing like a process of elimination with like the like control um whatever control F this control F that, trying to make it work, and eventually I got the right thing and it went back to normal, so that was fine. And then halfway through my Civ Pro exam, my computer just kind of like froze for all of 2 minutes, which is not that long, but it's freaked me out. So that happened. But other than that, I think it went pretty well. So Torts was closed book, so it was a lot of memorization and Quizlet. I think saved my life. If I did well at all, it's because Quizlet. I made a bunch of flashcards and outlines and things. Also, some really stupid mnemonic devices that to help myself remember, because we have all these concepts that are kind of, some of them overlap, they only work in certain like contexts. And so I've got these lists where I'm like, here are all of the like different standards for a reasonable prudent person that could be applied to them, so like the child standard or whatever, and then like here are the other standards that aren't reasonable prudent person but they're other, like the professional standard or whatever. And so I've got to like separate those in my head so I don't try to say the reasonable professional, because that's really bad. You don't want to say that. And so I've got these really dumb mnemonic devices like made up from the words that, which this okay, here's what's like frustrating about law school exams. You spend all this time, well, either you're not prepared and so you're freaking out, or you are prepared and then you're really disappointed when you get to the exam and there's like no way to work in what you know because the professor doesn't want to test this concept. So for instance, I memorized the second restatement factors for abnormally dangerous activities, and I was so proud of myself because it's not obscure, but like it's a pretty big list and I memorized it. And then I don't think there was any way to fit it into the exam. If one of you fellow law students out there thought to include the second restatement of normally dangerous activities factors, I'm really jealous because I wanted to, and I was like, I don't feel like this fits with the fact pattern, because they give you specific fact patterns, and if you try to be like, oh yeah, by the way, strict products liability, and the professor's like, this has nothing to do with products liability, then you're wasting time and you don't get points for it. Um, which wasn't that bad on torts. or contracts, but Civ Pro, oh my gosh, I love this class, you guys, but the final exam was so dumb because because so first of all, the fact pattern that we're given doesn't include an actual complaint, which just like and then he says later on, all the facts that you just read about assume that they're alleged in the complaint, which is fair but really frustrating because a complaint is structured very precisely where you've got like your paragraph split up with different allegations, and so you can look at it and be like, oh well, I'm going to strike paragraph 7 because of whatever reason. And when you instead have 3 fat paragraphs that are in like narrative story form, and then he's like, imagine this as an actual complaint. I don't know. So at one point I think I said, it's like, if I were the plaintiff's lawyers here, I would think carefully about how to turn these facts into a complaint to properly group the certain facts in a specific paragraph that wouldn't, without these facts, because this is conclusory, so not this one, but like this stuff. I don't know. It was, so that was annoying, but that I could have worked with that. That's fine. But then he gives us two personal jurisdiction questions. Two questions about the same concepts, but with like different facts and different like characters. And it's just annoying. So we do the first one, which he set it up where you have to. So personal jurisdiction has like multiple. Actually, I'm going to show you. Most of you don't care, but I'm going to show you anyway. Okay. So Civ Pro was open book exam. So I've got all my notes here that I used some of them actually. So that's nice. It wasn't a complete waste of time in printing. It was not actually too expensive. But anyway, so personal jurisdiction. Got my notes down here. They start here, personal jurisdiction, and then it's like a list of things that you go through. Like, is there a statute that applies here? Did they waive it by not, objecting in the first filing? You got to go through all of these things, and then you hit this really simple but kind of a deceptively simple concept called minimum contacts, which one way, if the other methods of establishing personal jurisdiction fail, a different way you can do it is say, hey, but this group, there's specific jurisdiction about this specific problem, like this occurrence, this transaction, this crisis, whatever happened, like this specific thing, there's personal jurisdiction because, and then you go into all these reasons. And one of the 4 factors to establish specific jurisdiction for personal jurisdiction, which if that sounds like a Russian nesting doll, it is. It's a Russian nesting doll of concepts. But so minimum contacts, what you have to do is like, basically you look at a bunch of other cases where they have or have not established minimum contacts, and then you try to argue that our current facts are more or less like one of those different cases. So I've got a small list of like personal jurisdiction cases where it's like, oh, the defendant can be sued in California. Oh no, they can't be sued in Nevada. And then you're like, well, this is more like that one or not. So that, whatever. The point is that it's not even that complicated. It just takes a long time. And it's fun because you get to like argue creatively about this. Like I was trying to make these arguments about the fact involved the defendant who was, I think, like selling energy or something. I'm like, energy, that's something that people use consistently. That's not like a single transaction. That's like an ongoing process. And I don't know, I felt like that was kind of smart. And he likes when we use facts, so that's what I did. But yeah, it takes a long time. And so then you come across the second one, and you're like, really, Professor Main? Really? That's how you're gonna treat us? Okay. Which, if I'd be okay with 2 personal jurisdiction questions because I kind of think they're fun, except that the other questions we had, one of them was Rule 14, which is about, I don't remember. What is Rule 14? I did remember for the exam, at least I had my notes on it, so that was fine. But the reason I don't remember what Rule 14 is even about is because we spent all of maybe half a class the entire semester talking about Rule 14, and then one of our 8 questions, 1/8 of our final exam was on a topic that we talked about for like 1 class period, if that. I'm not convinced that it was an entire class period. Rule 14 is, it's filing against a third-party complaint. Filing a third-party complaint against a third-party defendant, which is kind of fun. Kind of simple. I don't know. I get to talk about. He's got this thing about the litigation dog, which doesn't make sense to anyone else now that I'm thinking of it, but you just add a tail to whatever stuff. Anyway, he gives us a Rule 14 question, and we're like, Why? And then he doesn't give us any discovery questions, which discovery is so much fun. And not only does he not give us a discovery question, but he sets up the facts, like, deliberately, I think, to obstruct us from talking about discovery. Like, he said, this was all established, this was all done, this was done in a timely manner, here's what they got, basically telling us that there's nothing left to discuss about discovery, which I took that and was like, challenge accepted. And I did end up making like 2 discovery points because I did not spend all this time learning about discovery to not even get to talk about it for the exam. So I talked about it. But yeah, this guy, like, Professor Maine, why? But it was a fun exam for the most part, except also there's a ridiculous number of like actors involved, like so many different players, and I got really confused because we had like 2 different third parties, but not really. So anyway, that was Civ Pro. Civ Pro was fun. Contracts, contracts is the biggest unknown because we didn't have practice exams. We had one, kind of, and I submitted my answer to it to the professor to get some feedback, which I got and then tried to use, but it's still only like one. I had that, and then I talked to her about what she wanted for the exam. That's really all I have to go off of as far as like what she's expecting. Well, in class itself, but I also have contracts is also open book, and I'm so proud of my contracts notes. Like, they're gorgeous. And I think were helpful, and I felt very smart flipping through all of them on my desk. So yeah, that's final exams, and LP was done forever ago. That was our writing class, and we submitted our last memo in November after Thanksgiving, so that I don't have to worry about that anymore. And now I'm on break, and I'm gonna go home. Actually, I'm gonna fly in like soon, couple hours. In the meantime, before I fly back, and then also once I'm home, I am going to read my evidence book that I just got because I'm taking evidence next semester. I'm so excited. And I've already looked at it. And basically this evidence book is like, it's like our Civ Pro book, except without any cases. It's just rules, which I've talked to some people who say that sounds like the worst possible thing, but I am so excited. Also because it's a lot of the rules that we use for mock trial, so it's like, which I already know. I don't know them well enough. I couldn't like be tested on them, but I'm familiar. Like, I know that the 700 rules are about expert witnesses, and I know that 400 rules are about relevance, and I know that there are multiple hearsay exceptions. So I wasn't horrified when I opened this up and realized that there are 4 chapters devoted to the hearsay exceptions. Like, I'm so excited about this book. It's really fun. So yeah, I'll be reading that and definitely incorporate it into a story because I already done. It's like, it's not that hard. It's gonna be the easiest thing to turn into a story, because it's the law, in action rather than all the like preliminary stuff that only lawyers care about. This is the fun stuff. So yeah, so that's going on, and then mock trial is starting, and I need to look at that. Which I was very excited about mock trial, and then we didn't get our materials until like a week later, and then it was finals, and now I'm kind of like, I don't know, I need to sit down and look at it, which I guess I'll be doing over break since it's now break, and I'll be going home, so I'll do it at home, and talk to my teammates later about it. We'll make it work. Yeah, so I don't think there's anything else really going on. Most of you back home, I'll see you all really soon, and those of you here in Nevada, I'll see you in 2019. So, bye everyone. I can't turn this off.